Hello and welcome. Today I have with me Martin Kappa, Kronpol's professional Trackmania player, and not only that, also a champion medalist. How does it feel?
It feels amazing, to be completely honest, especially after last week's disaster when I honestly didn't feel like I was playing that badly, but all the aspects came together last week, and I was not only a bit unfortunate, but I also was making a bit uh weird decisions when it came to to the wire. If like
Hmm.
if you risk it a bit more, or if you save it when it's necessary, and it just felt like I was never doing the right thing. So that was the thing I was focusing the most this week, and I'm super happy that what I was focusing on was actually the right thing to do.
Yeah, and it seemed like you have been preparing extra hard for this week. You tweeted about the practice being in full swing. Your name was popping up way more than before in leaderboards. And I've heard that you have been participating in practice matches with Massa, Mime, and Spam. Did the results of this step resemble at all the result of practice matches?
Oh, well, especially we played two practice matches, and especially in the first one, mine was doing extra good, to be honest. Especially on touchdown, where I sometimes felt like, okay, I can just go AFK. He was that good, so it's not a complete surprise to me that he did what he did. But yeah, I'm really happy for him because he is a good player. I don't say it normally until someone really proves himself. I always wait a bit longer to give my credits to someone who just comes from the lower division, because
Hmm.
it's it's normal. It's usual that someone who comes from the lower division does well, because you still have the momentum. You still are finding your place uh to step in. Like,
Hmm.
obviously, everyone who plays in TMGL is good enough, but sometimes when you how to say that, when you're still finding where you belong to, you can do better than you actually would, let's say, 1 year after.
Hmm.
and and therefore, everyone, I feel like everyone who comes from the lower division does very well in their first season. We can speak about the examples from the previous seasons, like we had Gwen, Afi, Mada, we had Binks. Everyone had very, very good first season, but what matters more is how well they do in the second season. But uh, it's still impressive what Mime is doing right now, and it is even better from him than what I was expecting. Like, it's still a better first season than I thought he would do.
Yeah, Mime is totally like beasting there in TMGL now. He's super consistent, but I wanted to stay a little bit on that practice matches topic because I think that is pretty interesting. Do you think that, well, scrims, as it is called by the majority of esports world, are better training method than solo practice? Is there a greater benefit to it?
I'll be only speaking on my uh, like what benefits myself the most, and I think I need both.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I believe like both of these aspects can be beneficial to everyone. Well, maybe not as much to everyone as it is beneficial to myself, but uh I think the first few days you really want to get to know the track as much as you can. So therefore, you want to play maybe offline, or it doesn't matter if you play offline or on stream, but you really want to hunt the map. But then it is completely different what's needed from you, what's like required to from you to perform on the best level in a live match. So, you know, if you hunt the map the first few days and then you try to play a few practice matches, you can really discover some things that you would have discovered only in the live step otherwise. So, and that's obviously a bit too late. So yeah, if you play a practice match, I think later in the week, you might discover that the line or a few lines you were hunting is just not doable in the live match. It happened to.
It's just a different environment that will test you more.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can speak for myself, like especially on speed up, that I was super good in training. Like I thought something like 0.9, 0.0 was something I can do every single round, and I was doing so, you know. And if it wasn't for the practice matches, I would have gone to the to the live matches thinking so. But then I saw in the practice matches that when you're a bit nervous, and everyone is, your absolute reactions might not be as good as in the practice as in the hunting sessions, and therefore you have to save it a bit more, and therefore you lose like 2/10, you know. But it's totally fine because everyone has to save it a bit more. But the problem would be if you didn't save it those 2/10 more, you know.
So, yeah, I get it. So both solo and practice matches have their own benefits, but you have to do more. You have to do both, of course. That's just crazy to me that you as a player, well, all of you pro players have to organize it by yourselves. When in major esports, it's a job of a head coach or team manager, but in Trackmania, you guys function as a one-man team. Do you think there is a space for coaches, analysts, dietitians, or at least someone to help organize your training?
There could be a space for that, but I think it's different in Trackmania because the stuff you usually get from your mental coach, you would need that person to be someone who you can really trust, because every single track is different, and therefore every single information you would need would be different, because, you know, obviously there is some general stuff that you can use for every single track, but as I said, like for instance on speed up, I thought the ending was doable almost full speed every single round. I mean, I was consistent in it in training. I didn't think it was such an issue, but only was it the practice matches that really coached me there. So, you know, you figure that out, like in the quote-unquote live setting. So yeah, probably there is something that the coaches would teach you, but I think it's really different in Trackmania than it would have been in different games. So
okay,
even if Trackmania was bigger, I don't think that the coaches would still have such a big like
impact,
you know. Yeah, I don't think so. That like they wouldn't have that much of an impact like in other games.
Okay, I get it. I think it's time for the Inters View section of the interview, where I'm the Inter and I present my view. So today I want to talk to you about identities. People might already recognize that I've been poking this topic everywhere, on Reddit, in Twitch chats, and I wanted to end this saga with discussing it with a pro player face to face. So to summarize quickly my point, I think identities are becoming a problem, or at least, or maybe they always were. Most of the pros are complaining about them on stream. On average, they affect from 30 to 40% of the rounds. Tiny Gap and Clock Tower, of course, being the main culprits. Blind jumps and way too precise endings are way too determinant to the outcome of the round. Maybe to start simple, so we are on the same page. How do you feel about identities as a player whose professional career depends on performing on them?
That's a very good question. I mean, I've been thinking about this for 3 years straight because
Mm-hmm.
as you said, it belongs, like my career belongs on them, and especially myself. Like I got on top of the game, let's say 3 years ago, and then in that exact moment, this thing happened, this
Mm-hmm.
change happened. So I've been very vocal about it. I've been very mindful about it, and we've done a lot of things. We've not always been heard, but I think the identities themselves weren't always the biggest problem. It was more so about how the system was rewarding your qualities on them. And to be honest, like this season, and I'm not saying this on behalf of my yesterday performance. I mean, I would
Mm-hmm.
tell you the same, like last week or last season. I think the concept of the identities is super nice. I actually am on board with Nadio on the fact that a track, like it is really good for a track to really be remembered for something. So that's cool that Nadio is using this in Trackmania, like where you can really, in a game where you have so many tracks every single week, every single season, you would like not remember many of them just because every single track
Mm-hmm.
would be the same like the other. And yeah, the concept of the identities is cool, but as you're probably implying, some of them are probably over the edge sometimes.
Yeah, I think, well, to actually be truthful, I think that most of the identities are fine, which might come out weird because I am complaining about them a lot, but I truly do. There are just handful of those just god awful ones that we have to deal with. We're talking Tiny Gap, Clock Tower, Grassline, Tightrope, maybe Turnover will be the same soon. They just seem a little bit too much for me, but stuff like Water Glider, quicksand, touchdown, and even ice jump, even though it's a blind jump, they seem quite fine. The problem is that naturally, by just having to come up with new ones, there will be some that are way out of line. So, do you think there is a way to keep identities in check? Like maybe let players judge them and vote on them. Maybe just make less maps. Maybe let the community make maps and pick them for TMGL. Do you think there is a way to keep them in check so we can have fun with them? Because let's be real, I don't think we are getting rid of them soon,
No, we are not getting rid of them, and
if
I
ever.
don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and I don't think that would be a good decision to get rid of them at all because at the end of the day, I feel like at least the viewers are enjoying them, and as I said, like I enjoy them as well, but it depends on every particular identity, and to mention a few that I think weren't. um, Tightrope, for
Tightrope.
example.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a bit too much. Obviously, the map had been updated a few times, but still, like the map was super cool. And then you come to the ending where you just don't know what to expect. It's like you're playing 60 seconds of a track where you try to do your best, but then you have to go to the ending in a mentality where you just accept whatever
Mm-hmm.
it will give you, which I don't feel like is too much esports competitive. But obviously there can always be someone who nails it. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore I don't want to really blame it, or I don't want to be whining about it, because sometimes you just have those identities where you don't figure it out, but I will say an example of clock tower, because last week I was thinking that the identity is completely random, so therefore I thought I would be just playing as best as I could for 60 seconds and then just try to jump it. But then, only then, after having a completely bad step, I tried to be as honest to myself, and I was trying to fix every single detail. And already after one more practice session after that step, I figured out I was doing it wrong, and that it's actually doable for consistency, that there is a setup that you can do every single round. So I don't want to judge every single identity based on that, because sometimes you just don't figure it out. But yeah, I still feel like there are identities, like, let's say, tightrope. That is probably my best example, where uh, the identity can gain or lose more time than the super hard map, which tightrope is on itself, so
Yes, and you.
so I'm sorry,
Yeah, sure.
it really
Go on.
it really depends. And if you ask me, what can the community or the mappers do more, obviously there could be some people, some testers hired by Nadio to test the maps in advance. But the problem is, like, really honestly, right now the top 16 players in the world, for the first time ever, I think, are in TMGL. So therefore, if you really wanted to test the maps properly for the best players, like, if you really wanted to judge what's possible and what's not in consistency wise, you would need to hire one of them, and
Yeah.
you obviously cannot do that right now.
Yeah, but you touched on one point, the competitive integrity. And well, I feel like there is one argument for identities, that they should be enhancing viewers' experience, right? Which is a very variable thing from person to person, but let's say they do. I actually think they do. I feel like they're very exciting. But I'm talking to you as a pro player right now. Do you think in the long run, is it worth it to sacrifice players' enjoyment of competing for better viewer experience?
No, you need to find a balance, I would say. As I've mentioned, like, the identities themselves are not a problem, but you need to find a balance, like, what's still enjoyable for the viewers, and what's a bit too much for the players to not to be comfortable with. You wanna put the players also in the situation where they don't feel a bit comfortable, because you really want that spectacle in the end. But it has to be both hard enough and also interesting to watch, because let's be real, like, if someone is just too good, and it's not that interesting to watch. Obviously, you get the enjoyment from spectating the guy who just can perform on that level on every single part, but you can't overdo it, I would say.
Yeah,
And
identities should be like fun, unique, and harder than the rest of the racetrack, so that people who watch have something to anticipate, and players that are playing are challenged in the end. Like to summarize it, right?
yeah, exactly. But it really depends on every single particular identity. It really is a difficult topic to judge,
Yeah.
because I don't think it's even that easy for Nadio to find the right balance. I mean, I know that they don't nowadays want such a random identity themselves, and I mean, if I myself look at the identities we are getting, I don't think their main goal is to annoy us or to make
Of
us
course not.
struggle. No, it's not. Of course, it's not a given because it wasn't always like this. Sometimes you had this season where there felt like, okay, let's make the track easy and the identity super random. I mean, we had seasons like that, but I don't think this is the case this season. I think Nadio is not trying to annoy anyone right now, but I still think sometimes they just get a bit too far, but then it's obviously late, like way too late when the map is already released. So I think um, there could be someone who is properly testing the tracks before they get released. I don't think they really want to annoy anyone right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the actually refreshing take, because I haven't seen any pro player say that identities are mostly fine. Most of them are just molding at them, but I guess it's just.
I am as well. I am as well, obviously. But as you've mentioned, I've been experiencing all of this for all seasons since TMGL has started. So
and I'm sure that if they will sit, they would sit with me like you and talk to me, with calm mind, and not after 10 times failing the identity, they would probably say something similar to you. But it was quite refreshing to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it shocked me as well to say something like that. It definitely it would definitely shock the Martin Krompels from 3 years ago to say something like that in 2022. But this is my point of view, and I think the most important thing is just to make the identities hard enough and also possible to be consistent at the same time. And I think that is more the case of how much you test them. And obviously every single map builder is a good player, because you can't necessarily be a good map builder for the for the pro events and be a bad player at the same time. But obviously there is a gap, and sometimes when you build a map and you see something difficult that you're building, you might think, okay, well, I myself cannot pass that. But obviously we know those Carl Juniors, those Thomas Coles, and I'm sure they will make it happen, but sometimes it's just not possible. At least not in 2022. But like, we are still humans.
Yeah. Okay then. Thank you for coming, Kappa. Do you have anything to say to your fans, to the viewers?
Well, I just hope that the TMGL will keep growing and that I will stay relevant, because it's not easy. You have to be super practiced for every single step, and even then, like, being practiced, it's just not enough nowadays. You really have to perform, so you have to you really have to be on the top of your game every single week. And I really have to point that out, that I think especially the let's say the level of the top challenger matches nowadays are better quality than what we were getting in the first seasons of the MGL in, let's say, 2019, 2020 even. So I think the level of the player field is getting better every single season. Not only in TMGL, like in Trackmania in general. I mean, that's a natural process, so that's a good for Trackmania esports wise, and you just have to keep getting better. You just, even if you at one moment like get to the top and feel like you're the best in the game, you just have to keep improving, because if you don't, other players will just catch up and overcome you. So I mean, you can see Pac, you can see Carl. It's not just myself. And nowadays every single win feels more sweeter than it used to, because you had to work hard for it. So for myself and for my fans, I hope that I will I will keep that pace. I mean, I believe I have that mentality to do so, but obviously there's now a stacked field of players who are hungry, not only a few players, but every single one, and also the ones below the first division. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think you definitely proved that you belong to the top on the top spots. On Sunday. And for all the viewers, you can watch Kappa every Sunday 8 p.m. on Twitch, competing in TMGL. All the links to Kappa's socials and broadcast options will be in the description. Thank you for watching, and I invite you to subscribe for more interviews in the future.